I wanted to talk today about one of my favorite old games from my color computer. I have a retrospective about my color computer in another video. One of my favorite games was Dungeons of Daggorath. It was the first-person perspective game that I played. So it was basically a first-person shooter kind of a thing, except you were typing your commands. So instead of clicking or something to attack, you would type attack left. This game blew me away at the time with its graphics. It was a vector-based graphics game, and the sounds were really intense. You had no health bar, you had a heartbeat that would pulse. You'd go beep 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 beep. And as you got hit or were running, it would beat faster. So you would fight a monster, and then if your heartbeat was going too fast, you'd have to run. But as you're running, your heart rate would also get faster, and you'd have to stop and try to rest before the monster would get there and try to run away some more. This game was extremely immersive at the time, extremely difficult. I was never able to beat it. I neglected to read the full instruction manual to find out that there were shortcuts for some of the commands, so I used to type out attack space left, and it turns out you could just do A space L, enter, A space L, enter. So I got really good at the game using the long commands, and many years later when I found out the shortcuts, I was even better. Even then, I could only make it down to level 3, the dungeon, and then I would get just decimated by some of the characters. So I gave up on this game on my Coco. You could also save to audio cassette, but I really had a lot of trouble reloading my save games from the audio cassette. I remember I would save it, and sometimes it would work, sometimes it wouldn't. And the audio cassette wasn't the best device for saving and loading your data in the first place. You had to adjust the volume and stuff, and it would work most of the times, but it was frustrating. So, especially, you couldn't just save. You couldn't just go, okay, I killed this monster, save. I killed this monster, save. You couldn't just do it that easy. It was time consuming. So this game I eventually just gave up on. I couldn't beat it, but I started playing this game when I was 6 years old. 6 years old, and it was a really intense game, really difficult. I can't believe if you gave that game to a 6-year-old now, they just would have no idea. They would never have any idea what to do. So it was a different time, different culture, that we were so excited about this technology that we would go through all the trouble of figuring out this really convoluted game. Very complex text-based game. Each monster in the game made its own sound, so you would know when a particular monster was coming. So if you heard a snake going like the snake sound, rattlesnake, you wouldn't be too afraid. But if you heard like the blob sound, which I think was either like a bzzz or a bloop, I forget which one was the blob, you knew you were in trouble. You were going to have to type really fast. You could also stay in some of the squares, so you could kind of camp out in a square, and if you were being attacked by the low-level creature, like a spider, you could move forward, and eventually all the other creatures would find you. You could move forward, attack a blob or something more difficult, move back into the square with a weaker enemy, and kind of, if you were powerful enough, your heart rate would go down while that weaker enemy attacked you. So anyway, many years later, I gave up on this game, never beat it, never got past the 3rd level, never really even accomplished much on the 3rd level. There was a DOS port of this game. So I downloaded the DOS port, and saving and loading was a lot easier, but I still wasn't fast enough with the keyboard to beat this game. Maybe I didn't have the patience, but I wasn't fast enough to beat this game. Or patient enough, one or the other. Both, probably. So many years after, so I gave up again. I never beat the game. Many years after that, I decided to play it again. And now I had more sophisticated equipment. So I had a Logitech Rumble Pad 2, and you could program the controls you could map keyboard commands to the controls. So I mapped attack left to like button A or button 1. So now instead of typing AL enter, I could just go click, 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 click. Even with that, the game was really difficult. The Wraiths, there's this one enemy called the Wraiths, and they're just these faces, and they really, when you first encounter them, they'll just decimate you. But with my being able to easily save and load, and with my controller, with my map controls, I was finally, after, oh my gosh, 30 years, able to beat Dungeons of Daggorath. No one cared, but I cared, and it was like, I remember that whole night, I just felt like it was a lifetime achievement that I finally beat this game after all these years. So there's a PC port of that game, Dungeons of Daggorath. I really highly recommend checking it out. It's an awesome game. There's lots of playthroughs on YouTube. You know, that's why I didn't make a video of it, because there's already a video of it. It would just be sort of a waste. Not that talking about it is really interesting to many people, but hopefully there's one or two people out there that would like to hear me talk about it, because they've also experienced this game. And I can't tell you, after beating that game, I know I sort of cheated. I didn't use any cheat codes. I programmed into my controller. It's not the way the game was meant to be played, so in a way I cheated. But I still felt amazing that I had overcome this game after all these years, despite using my controller. Because I would never have beaten the game otherwise. Never. No matter what I did, I just am not that fast on the keyboard, not that skilled, not that patient. I couldn't have done it. So with programming my controller, I was finally able to do it. There was actually a Facebook group for Dungeons of Daggorath, and I joined. I liked the Facebook page, and I posted on there, and I think there was like maybe 13 members or something like that. And one of the guys on there was like, "Oh, congratulations, you beat Dungeons of Daggorath." So it was nice to have somebody out there, a few people that actually knew this game and were excited for me to beat this game. Because obviously, if I just went out and got 20,000 people, maybe one person, maybe not. Out of 20,000 people, there could be nobody that would even know what I was talking about. And maybe that person knew what I was talking about, also didn't care if I beat this game. So, really old game, rare, not well known. I was amazed to beat it, amazed to play it when I was young. It was groundbreaking, I felt like, for the Coco. It's a really interesting game. I highly recommend it. There's a Windows port. I think I said DOS port, but it runs on Windows. Highly recommend checking it out. Very interesting game. Piece of computing history. Thanks, everybody.